So this video is going to have a little bit more detail in compared to like the last video I just shot. And the reason is because this book that I read this week has been extremely interesting. It made me like feel things, and it made me talk to myself a lot. There's no other way to say it. Like, I had conversations with myself when I was reading this book because there's so many controversial topics that were touched on this. And the book is Dissolution by C.J. Sansom. But basically, this story is set in 1537 England during the time of Henry VIII. The story starts out with a murder. A commissioner had been sent by someone named Thomas Cromwell to a monastery in somewhere called Scansey, somewhere around like with that Scansey, and he got killed. So, in order to investigate his death, another commissioner was sent, and that is our main character, Matthew Shardlake. Matthew is a lawyer by profession. He's been commissioned by the Vicar General, which is Thomas Cromwell, who is one of the right-hand men of Henry VIII. Henry VIII and Thomas Cromwell, psychotic. From the beginning, like if you know a little bit of history about England at that time, psychotic. So now he's on his way to this church and monastery, and the things that he finds in this monastery are, to be honest, absolute filth, because the Church of England has now they're cleaning out all these places, saying that they have been soiled by human actions and greed, and they have forgotten the purpose of God in monasteries, which is so true. Because when you open this book and you start reading it, you in a place that is meant to be holy, which is a monastery, all monks, all those kinds of things, I don't think I found a single person, a single character from this book that had any redeeming qualities because of how filthy they were as human beings. Like, let alone serving God, they should not be out in society, because some of the things that I read, it's hideous behavior. So you've got I think you have every single all the seven deadly sins in this book. And the thing is, I only know about 4 of those sins. I know greed, lust, sloth, and envy. And those 4, all there in this book. All of those 4 in this book, in different people, and some of them in the same person, like 4 of it in the same person. You can be greedy for money, greedy for food. You can be like envious of other people's wealth. You can be lustful towards. So all of those sins really just highlighted in a place of worship, in a place of God. And a lot of the times it's mentioned that because people that go into religion or serve God, they emphasize the fact that human beings were made in the image of God, but when you see what's happening, it's the complete opposite. And I think the author's done so well to describe the sins of these people, because it brought absolute disgust to me when I read it. But I will say, the comic relief from this book was actually so funny, because Matthew goes on his journey with his a sidekick. His name is Mark, who also loses himself along the way. But the banter was just top tier. I actually lost my train of thought while I was speaking to myself and trying to find the quote in the book. But basically, there's a lot of humor that goes on in the book. It's witty, and the writing, I want to thank the author for the style of writing, because if you've read Wuthering Heights and Jane Austen's books and Emily Bronte's books, they're written in the old English text, so when you're reading it's very different kind of English. It takes a while for you to process some of the words, but because this is set in 1537, I thought it would be the same. But obviously the writing is contemporary, so it's very easy to read through. The jokes are understandable, the dialogue is understandable, and you kind of take more from it because of that. So I want to say a very big thank you to the author, because it made it so much easier for me to read and understand. This book, like I said, it brings out the flaws in a lot of the people, and the main character was not immune to it. And I developed a severe disliking to the main character of this book because of that, because he came in and obviously he's deformed, he's got a disability, he's a hunchback, and I think because of his insecurities, he projects it onto other people a lot more. So he shows that he's got power. He's been sent by, he's an emissary of Henry VIII. He's got power, all of those kinds of things. And it starts getting to your head. So you start to display things that are unnecessary, such as in the presence of a woman, how they would act, and how he would act with someone who's of a lesser in a lesser position than him. And eventually the greed and the envy got to him, and he became a very twisted character as well, working for himself and doing things that are not out of the goodness of his heart, but because of jealousy. Again, seven deadly sins. So, but one thing I will say that I read in this book that exists in every single other, it's in every single society. It's existent now, it was existent then, and that is the way women are treated. Because in this book there is one woman that's been mentioned throughout this whole book. Her name is Alice. She's an important character in this book, but she's also the only maid servant and also assistant nurse that's in the monastery. And this girl has been harassed, abused. I believe, no, she wasn't, but another one was, and she's dead in the book. But there was a few quotes that were given that really made me just, it gave me the ick, and that's how women were described. And I'm going to find it. One of my favorite quotes from this book: she seemed to tempt me, just as the lust for glory tempts men to war. She tempted you. She could not do otherwise. She was a woman, and what are women on earth if not to tempt men? She should never have been allowed here. Women are the devil's instruments. Women are the devil's instruments. There's more. Hold on. I'm going to find it. I'll be back. Another quote from this book regarding women. She was a woman, so the very sight of her was temptation. Her image filled my mind. I was always thinking of her. Satan placed her in my path to tempt me, but I have confessed. I have made confession. I don't think women were placed in the face of men to tempt them. I think men, they were just put on this place just the same way men were, as creatures of God's earth. But it happens now as well. You see how men act when they're in the presence of women, and it happens a lot in Sri Lanka as well, where women's safety are compromised. But that's seen everywhere in the world, and this book really highlighted that for me, that no matter where it is, where you go, what time it is, the safety of women is always questionable, because I don't think a woman is ever safe. But this book, I think I give it a 10 out of 10 for its everything. Character, not development, but like plummeting, but also just shows the complexities of people, and how they are not perfect. They're the furthest thing from perfect. And I can't wait to read Darkfire, which is the next book of it. I have it. But once I get to my other books, I will definitely start on it. So that was my review of CJ Sansom's Dissolution, and I want to again shout out to the author. Really great book. I really enjoyed it. Very historical, um, very appealing to the mind. Uh, After I read that, I needed to read something lighter, which is something I do now regularly. If I read, like, when I read Wuthering Heights, I was like, I need something light, which is how I ended up reading. I feel like I read another book, I just can't remember. Was it Twisted Love? Oh, I think I read Twisted Love. Okay. So after I finished reading that one, I finished reading this one, Twisted Games. It took me less than 24 hours to finish this book. I won't lie, I lost a bit of sleep. Games is the second installment in the Twisted series by Anna Huang. You can tell it's late and I haven't slept because tired. So this book I actually liked a lot more than I liked Twisted Love. I thought Twisted Love was it was unnecessarily aggressive. I didn't like the male character one bit. There was not an ounce of warmth in that person, and I don't think a person should be that cold for no reason. So we have this one. It's focusing on Bridget and her bodyguard called Reese, and Reese has the emotions. He just there's a lot of depth in him as a character. I don't want to overanalyze this book as well because the contents are obviously very spicy. This is a spicy book. Has the spice, definitely has the spice. I do expect more from the next book because I feel like, you know what, this is okay. There should be more. Um, Not that I demand it, but I feel like more detail is always welcome. I liked the characters, both characters, Bridget and Reese, in this. So that is Twisted Games by Anna Huang, and the next book I'm going to read, which is this one. It is In a Thousand Different Ways by Cecilia Ahern. It's a very, I know it's a tough book to read because I think there's a lot of sadness, the rage. There are things she can't get out of her head, the things that overwhelm her. So this is what I'm going to be reading, and in order to get over this book, I will probably be reading this book, which is Twisted Hate by Anna Huang. So I'm excited to come back to you guys with the review for Cecilia Ahern's In a Thousand Different Ways. This has been a really long video, but as I said, I really think if you are a fan of historical books, that you should definitely try reading CJ Sansom's Dissolution. It's a great book, great history, great character plummeting, and yeah. So that's me with this video. A long one. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.